Patreon. Support the future of Built Not Bought. Okay guys, welcome back to the next morning. Yeah, late last night I finished putting this thing in. It was a bit of gymning around to try and get those few bolts in the back there, but she's looking good now. So what I'm going to do is just play around with the alignment a little bit. You can these mounts are slotted, so I can go a bit left, bit right. I want to make sure that the headers are going to fit nicely in there. So we'll get the exhaust in, because then underneath there's a small section of stainless that I need to cut and weld to marry up the back end that the guys at Advanced built to these headers, that they have sort of an off-the-shelf product. So that's what I need to do now, and then I start look at hooking up all the blower and that kind of stuff. Obviously that one balancer I'm going to grab on Monday, which is tomorrow, to finish off all the pulley system. And then, yeah, I'm just going to run some time lapses and show you everything's just got to be connected pretty much. It's all that's going to happen now. It's just bolting, plugging in hoses, all that kind of stuff. I'm really pushing it for time at the moment, so I'm just going to smash it out, run a time lapse for you guys, because yeah, I go away in like, I don't know, I think it's like 2 weeks or something. Anyway, less chatting, more working. Let's get to it. Alright guys, so what I've done now is started looking at the fuel system. I just finished off the wiring to the relay. Now the signal for the fuel pump comes from the ECU, but what I've done is just hot wired it so I can turn the fuel pump on and off as I need, because this here is a 40 micron fuel filter. Now this is the secondary filter. There's one in the tank, then one externally, which is that regulator I showed you before, and this is the final one before the fuel rail. But even though I've been real careful and clean, had things taped up, I do want to run some fuel through this line first, just to clean out any shit in there. So we'll go down the back, fill it up with some 98, run some fuel through, make sure it's all clear, and then hook it up to the blower there. Now we're making our way back. We're filled up. Whoa. We'll just hold like a little container, or I'll finish my Powerade and we'll use that. Chuck some fuel in there and see what comes out. Place your bets. Ooh! Oh, look at that. Oh, it's all bits of fucking rubber and shit. And that's why you clean it out. Look at that. What is it? Alright guys, whew. Now I've been pretty flat out the last few nights of getting this thing together, but pretty much all I've been doing is a little bits and pieces that is not that interesting. But I'm at the stage now where I'm going to finish off the install of the supercharger. So that's been put on the engine, but what's outside of that is the intercooler system. Now this has a water to air intercooler. The obviously forced induction air gets really hot when it compresses, so it goes through two little mini like radiator looking things before the outlet into the intake of the heads on the engine. So this little bracket's been made for the pump. It's just an electric 12 volt pump there. So mounting this around here, it's kind of the only sensible spot, because the hoses come out right there, and then the outlet can peek through these holes near the headlight and out to the intercooler. The radiator's going to go on here, so it's all should line up pretty good. So we're whacking that together now and hopefully hook up all the hoses, get them clamped up, and be done with that side of things. Let's step back a little bit. Right, now back looking at the engine harness again here. First way to start, I've pretty much stripped back all the conduit and tape, but this is the main ECU plug. The other plug on the ECU is the body side, which will have like the fuel pump, thermos, throttle sensor, throttle plug and all that. So for the moment, I just want to worry about this one. From pretty much here down, I'm going to strip back all of this tape here and pull out all these wires, and that'll almost half the spaghetti of wires here. So that's the first place I'm going to start, and then I'll plug all these back into the motor, and I'll only have to worry about one plug. And these ones with yellow on here are the ones that I think I may not need, or I'm not sure where they go to, and we'll start eliminating from there. I've got a pin out from the net. It's not for this exact harness. It's a bit tricky for this because it's out of a VZ, which is kind of rare, like the VZ 6 litre E38, you know, it's, yeah, a bit hit and miss. So this is just a generic 6 litre, I think out of a VE harness. So some of the colors are different, but majority of the descriptions match up with their destinations as I trace the wire back. So that's a good start for there. And yeah, we'll just keep punching through it. Gotta love the spaghetti. I kind of enjoy this stuff, you know, got the jazz playing. All right guys, now back to the wiring a little bit here. What I've done is obviously strip back the harness. What I want to do now is just plug everything in while it's in the car now to see exactly where they need to run, and then just put little bits of electrical tape where there's any corners or turns. So then when I fully loom it up, it's going to sit right. Because if I loom it now, then this plug might need to angle that way or this way, and it's easier to just see where it is now while you can kind of adjust everything, tie it back, pull it off again, and then loom it properly. And that way when you put it in, it's all going to fit up perfectly. Pick up from where I left off last night. I've done all the tape. It's the first stage. Now I'm going to go through and just put conduit over everything. Depending on the thickness here, I've got 3 different sizes of conduit I'm going to use. And then once the conduit's on, go back over the whole thing again with tape. And then certain sections like the O2 sensors and the crank angle, the knock sensors that go near the exhaust. So, yeah, I just grabbed the stuff from Supercheap, and it keeps it away from the heat there. This stuff can handle like 1800 degrees or something ridiculous. So I'm going to put that over those small sections, and then tape each end of that, bit of cable ties or something to just keep that there, because I did have some issues in the last build I did where I think it was the crank angle sensor down the back actually was leaning against the head, not even the exhaust, and when it got hot it just cut out and the timing was all out, and I could not find the problem. The thing wouldn't drive, and it took me about 2 weeks to figure out that it was resting on the head there, and it hadn't even burnt through the wire. It's just the heat was enough to interfere with the signal there. So it's really important that when you run these, you got to know where the hot areas are and put some sort of shield there to compensate for that. All right folks, it's about 1:30 a.m. in the morning, but I've just finished the other side of the engine harness here. Now it's pretty small. There's like so much that ended up coming out of this thing. So what we've got loomed up, this is the fly-by-wire throttle pedal. So that'll go onto the throttle pedal in the footwell. The other one that's loomed up here is for the OBD sensor. This is where the tuning's gonna happen and my diagnostics. Off the back here, we've got the power and ground for that plug. And this is the other power that I'm gonna run ignition for the rest of the computer. And then all there is 2 other sections. This chunk here of wires is going to run through to the engine bay. This has got the air temperature sensor cables and also the thermofan trigger for the relays in the engine bay. This other one is 3 wires here which run to the back of the cab, which will go to that power board, and there's going to be a all-time positive battery for the memory, and also the fuel pump relay triggers as well. And also a ground, so that's the 3rd one there. And then we've just got taco. God, it's that late, I'm thinking about food. And yeah, I've got some vehicle speed sensor wires here just in case. I'm not sure how I'm going to work the cruise control yet, so I've just got them there in case, but they're not going to be used at the moment. And that's all there pretty much is on this second plug of the harness. So I'm going to whack this in the car tonight and then hit the sack, I think.
3 days later.
All right guys, now we're starting to get closer and closer towards the front end to getting this motor in. Oh my God, it's all happening outside. I hope you can't hear that racket out there. Someone's welding. What I want to talk about is the radiator. Now I just want to take a minute because I feel like the radiator is something that's generally overlooked, especially in conversions. And it's very important to have the right radiator because the cooling system is just as important as your oil, as your fuel, as all that other kind of stuff. So I want to tell you a little bit of a story first. So as you know, the last build I had, the GE Patrol, had an LS1 in it. Now, What I did there is just use the standard radiator. Actually, it was a factory replacement. So it was actually an aftermarket standard radiator. Now, I think I went through 2 water crossings. It went through the water, punched a hole straight in that radiator. So I was like, that's no good. So I decided to lash out, spend a few extra bucks and get a nice aluminium radiator. This thing was a bit fatter. It was like a 2-core, but it was the Chinese option. Like there's a whole lot of expensive ones that ended up going the Chinese option. I think it lasted about a month or 2. I went through 2 of those Chinese radiators. And then the big trip to the Cape York was coming up. I was like, man, what am I gonna do? So, did a lot of research, spoke to a lot of forums, found these guys at AdRad. Now, that's the radiator I ended up going with. Now, it was kind of risky doing it so close to the trip, but I tell you what, it stood the test of time. I did 15,000 kilometer trip. We did Jardine River, we did Scrubby Creek, we did Nolans Brook, we did Sam Creek, we did all the big tracks and big crossings up north. Didn't have a single issue, no overheating issues. Now I think the good thing you can do with those bigger radiators is actually run 2 thermo fans. So when you do go through a water crossing, you can turn the fans off, and then when you come out, you flick it back to the ECU so it can be controlled from there. So I've gone the same again, you know, stick to what you know. This time I've gone a 3-core instead of a 2-core. Now I spoke to the guys at AdRad and told them my application, and they wanted to make a few adjustments to suit what I'm doing here. So they've gone in and pretty much added some extra cores. The last one I had was a 56mm, but with the dimensions of the supports on the Patrol, they've made it, I think it's a 52 or 53mm, so it's slightly smaller, but that's not gonna affect the cooling too much, but that just means that it's gonna fit in much more nicely. I've gone with twin 16-inch thermos. They're these Maridine 16 inches. Now, I'm pretty sure these are waterproof or water resistant. They look like a sealed unit here. So these are going to be connected to that shroud, and twin 16s pretty much cover the whole surface area of this radiator. So let's get this all together and inside the car. Right, now just while you wander over and hit that subscribe button, I'm going to run you through what we've done the last couple of days. Getting closer and closer. I ran up the last few nights just finishing off a few things. You know, we've got that radiator in, got all the hoses sorted. I actually circulated some fluid in this intercooler system last night. So it was having a bit of trouble because this is the highest point. So a bit of air was getting trapped up here, but I managed to fill it up and then throw it down into the pump with the water in there, get it running, and then the air ended up in the reservoir there, which is where you want it. So I got all that circulating well. And then I managed to finally get my computer back over the weekend. Yeah, so I got my friend Al Gibbs to sort out getting the vats removed and a flash tune put on there. So I've tucked it up, and it's basically where the Nissan ECU was. So it's tucked up under there. I had to play around with the mounts a couple of times last night because the way the plugs were going in, it was facing the wrong way and it was all getting jammed up there. So I had to pull it out, turn it around, and now it runs through there. Obviously tidy all this cable up. But for now we can sort of troubleshoot if we need to and get access to those plugs. So that's secured in there. Now the computer's in, radiator's in. It's just the last few checks with like running the fuel through. I want to get a bit of oil pressure going as well. So I'll probably pull the plugs out, spin it over with the starter motor a few times just to pump up the oil through up to the lifters and through all the bearings in that. Obviously check with the multimeter. You want to check you've got power to like your ignition coils, and so the spark will happen. There's also some other ignitions for like sensors, your O2 sensors and all that need to be working. And once all the checks are done, we may just fire it up tonight. So let's take a look at that stuff and see where we're at. No one, no. Okay. Remember doing this on our trip? All right, so g'day guys. All right, so I've actually, I've got it here. I've actually taken all the spark plugs out now. Leads are off. The plug to the coil packs are off, so there's no spark. I've undone each injector so there's no fuel, and Liam's chucked in a lot of oil. A lot. I'm just going to spin it now with the starter motor, and because the plugs are out, there's no resistance, so it should spin a bit faster and hopefully try and pump a little bit of oil pressure up before we try and fire it. Okay, one thing I have done as well now is checking the actual throttle body throw. Like, I want to make sure that stop it. Couple of rugrats over here. Oh yeah, so the throttle body, I want to make sure that full throttle on the pedal actually matches this, because the actual sensor is out of VZ, but this throttle body is a VE. So to make sure that happens, pretty much fire up the ignition, hit the throttle. Do you want to do that? What? Turn the ignition on and press the accelerator pedal down. Alright. Okay. Okay, so that doesn't work. We'll have to figure out why. What should full throttle? Yes. We just had the wrong person pressing the pedal. That's all. Hey, you stick to your suspension. All right. You hold the fire extinguisher. You hold the camera. I don't think it'll go, but we'll try. Fuck. I'm so nervous. Jesus Christ, there's probably something I forgot. Oh, it's flat battery. Oh, we're back. Okay, now that obviously didn't go to plan last night. It was getting pretty late, so I thought I'd sleep on it, come back the next day, which is today, and figure out what's going on. So some of the symptoms that I saw, it basically wasn't firing, so that was the crux of it. But towards the end there, we tried it a bit more after a few things, made sure we had pressure and spark in that, and there was a huge backfire that came out of the exhaust, like a flame and everything. And that is a clear indication that the timing was way out. So what I did was jumped on the OBD sensor. Now the diagnostics that I can run on my head unit through the OBD2 port was able to run a fault scan, and it came up with a couple of faults. Now one of them which stuck out to me was the crank angle sensor A, and it said there was a fault with the connection to that. So that was clearly the problem. The engine and the computer didn't know where the crank was positioned, so it had no idea when to fire. So what I did is I went underneath, pulled out the starter motor and got access to that plug there in that port. Now I couldn't work out what the issue would have been because like all the cables hooked up, all fine, but pulled the plug out and there's 3 little pins there, and on the actual sensor there's a flat pin, and then the plug has like a little square hole and an angled chamfered kind of contact. And there was 1, 2, 3, but the third one looked like it was bent up a little bit. Now I was like, I don't think that would actually make a difference. But I got a little hook in there and try and pull that tab down a bit so it kind of sat level with the rest of the 3 pins there. Put it back together, and guess what? She fired straight up. So I'm glad that that was the only problem. It only took me a couple of hours to sort out. So we'll kick her in the guts now so you guys can see. I'm a bit annoyed I didn't actually catch it on camera because, to be honest, I didn't think it was going to work. I'm like, that little change isn't going to make a difference. But she fired straight up. So I think we'll kick her in the guts again today. There was a couple of leaks, little water leaks I want to sort out first, so I'll do them now, and then we can fire it up. You guys can have a listen and see this thing run. It purrs like a kitten, except it doesn't idle, but that's to do with the tune, so I've got to hold my foot on the throttle a little bit, and then she runs all right. So we'll do that now. Let's kick her in the guts, see what happens. So we've got oil pressure up here. Let's prime the fuel pump. Fuse is in. Ignition. Such in a high gear. Alright. Pull up here. clutch smells hot already. That's probably because it's new.
That's the exhaust, I think. Oh, that's its maiden voyage. Gives a smile, Sam. Needs a tune now.
It's real hot. It's clutch or exhaust. Ceramic coating. Oh, hello there. So you like watching Build Not Bought, do you? Well, there's plenty more content for you over on my Patreon page. As soon as you sign up, you get all the backdated content. Enjoy. Bye for now.